Thank you guys for everything you've done through Project ALS, and to train myself to really be in the now. Ironically for me, I don't know about you guys, but as actors, like I was like, I'm supposed to be good at this because I get paid to be in the moment.
Right.
It was hopeful for people to hear that people go through challenges. And by the way, sometimes divorce is the best answer. I finally just was like, I'm happy that we're making people happy.
That's really what it's about.
Because I was shocked.
Our number one favorite movie is Cable Guy.
Oh.
His one word that he would whisper in my ear is center.
The famous password set piece from Cable Guy. And wonder why it didn't do well at the box office.
No, it holds up. It came on recently.
And maybe also you could help me learn how to sing someday.
Oh, dude, if you want to learn how to sing, let's go.
Podcast.
You guys are amazing. Christine, you and I connected through Project ALS, I want to say probably a year ago.
Yes.
To get ready
it was,
for
yes. Maybe about a year ago. And you were so gracious to meet with the team. Ben and I have been working with Project ALS. Ben introduced me to the gals because Ben was close friends with Jennifer, Valerie and Meredith's sister who got diagnosed with it. But 25 plus years.
Yeah, I think it was 1997 was when
Jennifer was diagnosed.
Yeah.
And so you guys started, Ben, you were buds with Jennifer was that through Labyrinth Theater Company or was that something else?
Naked Angels Theater Company.
Naked Angels.
Yes, yeah. Back in, I guess, the 90s, late 80s, 90s. It was, a whole bunch of actors who, and Jennifer Estess was, I guess she was like technically like one of the founders, and also she was working in publicity, so she was sort of representing Naked Angels out in the world, and was just, a friend through my sister, and we just had so many, other people that we were connected through, and then when she was diagnosed in 90, I think it was 97, because I remember I was working on a movie, and I remember the telephone call, we're talking to her, and her telling me that she was diagnosed with this disease that nobody really heard of, and they didn't even know what it is, and her doctors were really basically saying there wasn't really anything she could do, and decided somebody should try to do something. And so she and her sister started Project ALS to try to get some research going, because at that time, it's kind of famously the line was like her doctor said, like, go off and like eat some cheeseburgers and like live your life.
Yep.
Which is, I have to say, like, when I had prostate cancer like 10 years ago, and I remember when I got diagnosed with it, the doctor, it was just, I didn't have a great, he didn't have a great bedside manner. And there's like, it's something like, when you're dealing with any sort of disease or challenge or something health related, who the doctor is and how they approach it and how they relate with the patient is so important. And I think that in a way probably stimulated Jennifer to really want to take action, because, this was such a hopeless sort of diagnosis from this doctor who didn't know really anything about it anyway. And I think that kind of spurred her on. And I remember when I was diagnosed with cancer, I said, I said to Christine, I think we should get a different doctor. It's not going to change the fact that I have to deal with this, but it actually makes a huge difference. So, and I'm sure you've experienced that too in some level.
Yeah, so much. I hate that 25 years later, and first of all, thank you guys for everything you've done through Project ALS to raise awareness, support, help finding a cure, and we can talk more about that. But for 25 years later, for my patient experience to be similarly lacking in empathy in a way was something that, I really had to protect myself from, where it was like, okay, I've got a mission. I've got like a soul calling here that something's telling me I can beat this. I don't know how I'm going to figure it out. and I have to then keep everything around that blocked out, right? And there are doctors who obviously are more empathetic than others. And like you said, you find the right doctor. There are incredible ALS docs on my team. And to circle back to Rick Bedlack for a second, I didn't even really know him well until I got to really speak to him yesterday. He's kind of an eccentric looking guy who wears super flashy suits and does his hair really cool and has funky glasses and this whole thing. He's like a real personality. And it was like, getting to talk to him about it, he said, I need hope as much as the patients and their families need hope. He said, so I wake up every morning and I have this fun wardrobe. I think this takes that. Do you know what I mean? I think it takes human beings who are willing to not just see the glass half empty all the time with this thing, but to find ways to rise above that. And I think that's metaphoric. But with this, like, you don't want to go to your appointments. Like, you don't want to go to the clinics
Right.
and walk in and have them measure you and tell you how much worse you're doing, especially if they don't have any bedside manner or empathy, And I get it, the doctors are dealing with a lot, but like, when I've traveled and I've spoken, whether it be for neurosurgeons or pharmaceutical companies, it's amazing how much they need to be inspired as well, which I never realized until I started dealing with this.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's something I never even really thought about. And I would imagine being a doctor in this field, you're dealing with so many very, really heavy situations with people. But yet it's also this, this disease that needs a cure, and that process of having to kind of have people who are willing to kind of treat it, but also trying to figure out how to get to a place where it's not always this such a dire outcome. I mean, I'd imagine that's like a really tough balance as a doctor to figure out how to navigate on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, so then I found out that there are 62 reversals of sporadic non-genetic ALS, which nobody leads with that information. Like, I found that out probably 6 or 9 months in, and I was like, what? Like, what do these people have in common? Who's studying them? Dr. Bedlack is studying. He's like a one-man machine at Duke University. He's doing all this stuff. So I've sort of become very passionate about, to me, that's running the 4-minute mile. You know what I mean? It's like, people have done it. We should be studying them. In the medical community, if you don't have like 1,000 data points or something, nobody gives a shit. So 62 people is like, yeah, well, it's 62 people. They're easily written off, right? But it speaks to, I read this book called Cured by a doc, I think he's a Harvard doc, Jeff Rediger, and he talks about how in medical school there is this sort of energy around spontaneous remissions, which as a med student, you're basically told that they're not possible, that it's like 1 in 100,000 people actually, just like, it's just some unexplainable miracle kind of thing. And he kind of dug into it a little bit, and he realized that was total myth. It was just a number that some attending made up and passed on, and then it became lore, and that was the stat. But when he actually figured out the numbers, the statistic was actually more like over 3,500 spontaneous remissions in that 100,000. And so he wrote a whole book on spontaneous remissions and how they happen and why they happen. It's very interesting. And so I'm about that. I'm kind of like, as awful as this disease is, and as insanely challenging as it is, and as scary as it is for people, if we only focus on that, we're propping up kind of that energy and making more of it. So how do we flip the script? And so anyway, I couldn't be more grateful to you guys for coming on to help us talk a little bit about this. And obviously we don't have to,
But Aaron, I was saying
go
to Rob,
ALS for an hour, but
no. But I was saying to Robbie before we logged in with you that from the time you and I met on Zoom to talk about this and to talk about potentially doing an event with Project ALS, and I really feel like in that year, it almost seems like you have gotten busier. You are all over you have been like, it's exactly what you're saying. You're not just going to take, you know, what the doctor says. Like you told me at that point you were going out and you know, doing talks, but you know, you recorded The Impossible Dream. You're a Grammy nominee. You are, you know, showing up all over the country. And now you have this podcast. It's like you're unstoppable is what I'm saying. And it's really impressive. And I think you're you know, you're putting your money where your mouth is, and you really are showing up for people in a way that I think it really helps. I think it really does to spread that goodness in that way.
Wow, thank you. That's I'm just so grateful for all the love and support. You know, I think we help each other heal. And another little crazy sort of how busy, you know, I weirdly, as an actor, not a lot happening for the last couple of years, right? And it was fine because I was so busy with all this sort of other calling kind of stuff. And then out of nowhere, I got an audition to play the governor of California. I don't know if I could say this, by the way. It's this new show on Amazon Prime that's coming out this summer called The Countdown. And so I auditioned for it. It's literally the only audition. And Sarah helps me make a tape, and I get the job. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I go to set and I shake Eric Dane's hand, and it's you know, limp. And then I go, oh man, something's going on there. And so when we have a moment, I'm like, hey dude, what's going on? Are you all right? He's like, I think I have what you have. And he goes, I was telling a friend of mine about this a couple months ago. And they said, oh, have you heard of Aaron Lazar? He said, no, I don't know who the hell that is. And she said, well, you should check him out. Like
Broadway's own Aaron Lazar?
Yeah, like, you know, come on, man. You haven't seen me in A Tale of Two Cities, the musical? Or
Come on.
The Last Ship.
Last
the
ship.
Like,
let's go
Last
there.
Ship. Well, Christine, that was funny when we met.
We saw The Last Ship.
Either Christine was being super nice and just lying through her teeth, or she actually had seen me in some stuff, and the kids had loved musicals.
Genuine.
And so I was
Very genuine. I told our daughter we were coming to do this today, and she's like, oh, I love him so much. Please tell him how much I love. No, you are a household name in this household. You know, yes, it probably.
Well, you guys are obviously household names in every household. So my kids were flipping out that I was going to get to talk to you guys today, and we were watching all your movies over the last couple of weeks.
Oh gosh.
But anyway, I said to Eric, Eric's like, yeah, I didn't know who the hell you were, and now you're on set. And I go, wow. Wait, so you didn't help me get this job? He's like, no, dude, I had nothing to do with this. Enough about me. So what I'm excited to continue talking to you guys about is just what do you find more impossible in a way? Is it like having built the careers that you both built and sustain in crazy Hollywood, or sort of having built and sustained this relationship and partnership between you two and your kids, and done that in the middle of the craziness of life in Hollywood?
What do you think?
I mean, those are two. Yeah.
I think it's you have to have your priorities straight. It's career, family, and then or career, publicity.
Yes.
Yes.
Family,
reviews. Right. Exactly.
I think we're like lucky. For me, I can speak from my own experience, not for Christine, but I think that balance is really challenging and hard to achieve, and you kind of have to have a self-awareness to really be. You have to have self-awareness, and I think when we got married, I had a certain amount of self-awareness, but I feel like as people, you know, hopefully you evolve as a person as you go through your life, and I don't think I was as evolved. Not that I'm super evolved now, but I'm more evolved than I was. You know, if you can, in terms of, you know, like relatively, but I'm more aware of what you can and can't do in terms of, you know, like having maintaining a relationship and connection while you're also out there doing all this other stuff or trying to do all this other stuff. And some people can figure it out easily, I guess. But for us, we had for me, it was like a huge learning curve. And the fact that we're still together and here now, and that we're, lucky enough to be able to, for us to figure it out, I think that we, I don't take that for granted, because there definitely were times when I was not as aware of that.
This episode of Impossible Dreams is brought to you by our charity champion, the ALS Network. The ALS Network is incredible. For families and patients who are living with this terrible disease, every day brings a new challenge. Trust me, I know. The ALS Network is there every step of the way with compassion, advocacy, and hope. They are helping patients and their loved ones all across the country, from funding groundbreaking research to hands-on support. I know firsthand how vital their work is and how much their support matters. I know that together we will accelerate progress towards better treatments and one day finding a cure. How can you help? Please visit thealsnetwork.org, make a donation, get involved. Your support really does matter. It brings us all one step closer to ending ALS. Thank you so much.
Well, and also we joke about it now, but we got engaged 6 months after we met, and we were married within the year of when we met.
Right.
And then we had our daughter, got pregnant that first year and had our daughter. And it was almost like we just started getting to know each other when we had this baby. And it was I look at that time. It's not like we were super, super young either. I mean, I got married. I was 28, right. Almost 30. I was 29.
I was 21.
No. You were a few years older. Okay. But I feel like we were really. It wasn't like we had 5 or 6 years together to really get to know everything about each other. We kind of. It was a whirlwind, and we went for it. And I mean, I laugh to this day about some of his, and I don't think I've shared this publicly before, but we got married in Hawaii, and we did a very small wedding, and Ben had a few stipulations of what he didn't want to do for the wedding weekend. And one was, because for the rehearsal dinner, we had hula dancers, and we did sort of a luau with our family members.
Yeah, this might be sharing too much.
I think not. No, it was just, he was sort of I don't want, if everybody's not wearing Hawaiian shirts, I don't want to be stuck just wearing the Hawaiian shirt if not everybody's wearing the Hawaiian shirt. So check box number 1. He ended up in the Hawaiian shirt because everyone was wearing Hawaiian shirts. And his second one was,
I have nothing against Hawaiian shirts.
No, you don't. It just wasn't your style.
It didn't seem cool to me at the time.
Yeah. You also didn't want to wear a white shirt for the ceremony. You went with a creamy grayer shirt, but that is beside the point. The other thing was, I
can't remember why.
You said you didn't want. You were like, it's fine if the hula dancers are there, but a lot of times in these luau's they bring people up to dance, and Ben's like, that's really where I'm going to draw the line. I'm not going to get pulled up. He got pulled up, and he went for it, and he did the hula dance with the fire.
Because I don't like to do embarrassing things in public, as you probably can tell from my
never.
filmography.
Go Knicks. Go Knicks.
Yeah.
Nothing embarrassing about the Knicks. Come on.
Nothing.
Knicks had a great season.
Knicks had a great season.
Yeah, they did.
But so I joke about that, but really, the truth was we really got to do a deep dive when we had our first child, and it was very clear we had different ideas of parenting. We had, all of it. We were learning as we went along, and it was on top of that, you were working so much because we very innocently, and I now will say stupidly, but it was innocent at the time, thought, well, how big a deal is the first year because there's so little. Yeah. And Ben was like, but I have these movies lined up, and they were all in LA, and we lived in LA, and it was I'll just do a year, I'll book this year and then I'll be free. And in that year, you don't realize that's the biggest.
We sort of threw out any child psychology book or any research for the last
Well, we just didn't read
75
them.
years
I know.
on raising children. We're
I
like,
know.
nah, we don't need that.
Oh my
I'm gonna-
God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're kind of doing our thing and trying to I guess that's sort of like the work-life balance thing that, was, we were kind of young and or youngish, but very sort of inexperienced in understanding what we couldn't pull off, I guess, or thinking that we could, figure it out. And by the way, everybody has to deal with some version of that, right? When you have kids, and some people don't even have a choice, we
100%.
Yeah.
but I think we got to know each other over the years, and there was something that drew us together that we responded to. It's funny because my parents were married for 60 years, and I just finished working on a documentary about them, and a lot of these same things I was exploring in terms of when they got married, and they got married in 1953, I think, and they had known each other for about a year too. So weirdly, we repeated what my parents had done. They waited a while to have kids, though, I think, which is interesting because they were trying. They couldn't afford to have kids. They were just trying to make ends meet as actors, out of work actors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love. First of all, thank you guys for sharing that. My parents similarly married, still married. I think they're at 51 years. My grandfather, who's 100 and a half, also fought in World War II. I think your dad was in the war. Am I right on that?
My dad was he was in the end, he was in Italy right after the end of the war, and he was sort of the occupying army there for a year or two.
Christine, any of your relatives in the war?
No, my parents are a little younger than your parents and
A lot younger.
grandparents. Yeah, but
Parents were younger when they had you, and
yes.
that's the other thing. My parents weren't super young when they had my sister and I, because I think they had waited too, just to feel like they could afford it. And and it's, look, the reality is with relationships, everybody has their own, path and what's right for them. And for us, we were together for a while before we even really got to know each other. But there was a reason I think we were together, because we were drawn to each other, and we got to know each other. And then we had ups and downs within that, and learned on the job kind of, and made a lot of mistakes. But it's also kind of what can you do? It's your life. You're living your life, and you are where you are at that time. And there was something that was pulling us together, and the rest we, kind of figured out as we went along.
And I think it was tricky too, figuring out what worked for our family within that. You read a lot about families who everybody goes on location and the kids go into schools there or get homeschooled, and and as our kids got a little bit older and started to have friends, and when I say older, I mean kindergarten, those where they're bonding and they're taking classes and lessons and things, and I think what was complicated was the pull for Ben of work that was out of town because it was the job, and then for me with the kids, because I was still working a little, but I really made my focus the sort of being a full-time mom. I would work every now and again, but I felt like it was really important that one of us was there, and that they had consistency, that they were able to have their friends and go to their classes and feel like that was a consistent part of their lives. But that became challenging because for Ben, who was off working, we would come for 2 weeks or something, and he'd be on location, or you'd fly back, and you were doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And it also, when you talk about, what felt impossible then, it was almost, I think, the re-entry, because mom and the two kids, we were this triangle, and then you would come back and we'd have to recreate the square again of the rhythm, the routine. And I feel like it was really challenging for you because you felt a little bit like the outsider, right. They've got their routine. I feel like I'm a stranger in my,
It was your mom's fault.
My mom was around a lot, as she still is. That became the running joke. The
Love it.
The mother-in-law jokes started early on. But no,
Love it.
but again, we learned as we went along, and it was challenging because it was like, what is the right answer? And, we didn't know. And I think, as your kid, how old are your kids, Aaron?
Yeah, the tall, super tall one just walked by and peeked his head around to see if you guys were real. And I was about to introduce him, and then he
just tell him it's AI. It's not real.
It's AI. Yeah. No, my kids are 13 and a half, 15 and a half. So heading into 8th grade and 10th grade. And they're enormous. Like, I don't know what happened. The little one had his bar mitzvah in January and is 6 feet tall now and wants to be an NBA player, and is a really legitimate hooper. Like,
need more
time.
Jewish NBA players.
Yes, we do.
Damn
so
straight.
He kept coming home and he was like, Dad, I dunked today. I dunked. And I'm like, no, you didn't. He's like, yes, Dad, I dunked. You can ask, this friend, this friend, this friend. And I'm like, there's no way you dunked. I was like, but even if you got rim, you'd be the first Lazar in the history of Lazars to get rim. So you will be the first Lazar to dunk a basketball. You're trailblazing. Like, they're trailblazing.
Oh,
so
my God, he really is. It's incredible.
My kid left today. The 13-year-old, actually, as we speak, is in the car being dropped off at Durango to do a 3-week version of this, where it's 1 week on the river, 1 week volunteering at a Native American community, and then 1 week backpacking. And he has been so out of his comfort zone getting ready for this, facing
That's
his fears
amazing.
or whatever. But no phones for 3 weeks, and they're off. And then the big guy leaves as soon as the little guy, Julian, leaves.
That's
when Adrian gets
incredible.
back. So,
I mean, were you, is that a story that's been told in your household for a long, like, about how you survived it? So.
Oh, I get made fun of, like, because I literally was an idiot. I was like, I'm leaving. Like, I was literally like, I'm leaving, and we're at 14,000 feet. There's no phones, there's no GPS. I was like, I'll just tracker my way out.
I'll look at the sun.
I'll just go down. Yeah. It's going to just go downhill. Eventually I'll get somewhere. By the way, did you have to convince your son to do this? Because that's an amazing chance for him to take and, to go off and do that. Yeah, it took a little bit of, like, I want to go to basketball camp. I want to, just focus on, and I was like, this is a once in a lifetime thing, man. Like, it will change your life. And Adrian was terrified to kind of go, and he was displacing his fears onto all kinds of other things. Like, I don't even want to get on this plane. The plane's going to crash. All that kind of neurotic. I don't know how to get out of my comfort zone. And as soon as he got to New Mexico with his mom, they're staying with a friend of hers last night, and then woke up this morning to drive to Durango. God started rewarding him with the friend has 2 dogs and a cat, and he loves animals. And the animals are his best friends and snuggling him. And he fell asleep and took a nap outside just looking at, New Mexico's red rocks or whatever. Excuse me. And so he started to get, like, a little bit of feedback, right? That when you face your fears and get out of your head, not to connect it all back, but I mean, what else are we doing here, right? It's that everybody has shit, and we all have the shit in our heads and the anxiety and the fear and whatever, and learning the discipline to figure out how to face that stuff. That's what life is. And sometimes, I guess what I'm saying is, you shouldn't have to get ALS or, God forbid, cancer or whatever to learn some of this shit. So how do I teach or share whatever I'm learning to help do whatever I can to wake people up a little bit, Yeah. And it's hard sometimes with kids because you can't, force somebody to have an experience that they haven't had, or, put them in that headspace. And of course you don't want them to have to deal with something that, is that challenging for them in life, but also that's part of what it is to get through life and to be able to understand how to deal with that stuff. So I know just from our experience, I was thinking, like, I can't imagine our son wanting to do that.
Right.
Because, it's probably for a lot of those reasons that are really daunting. But also there's that the chances that he's taking now, like I see him now at this point as a 19-year-old, he's, about to go off and live on his own for the first time. And there were moments as a parent I thought like, well, I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Yeah.
Because
it's true. And because he was a little bit of a late bloomer and also a pandemic COVID kid who was like freshman year of high school on Zoom and isolated and
his whole high school was COVID.
Really a lot.
And I probably I would be the dad who would want him to do what your son's doing and like really want to do it. And he really didn't want to do that. And I think that's like, for a parent, sometimes you also have to like figure out then where do I, am I the parent that forces him to do that? And that's a thing too. And the fear is if you don't do that as a parent, that like they're not going to grow.
They're not going to fly.
But then also you realize that everybody has their own path that they have to take and figure out. And at a certain point, you do have to support. You have to support your children in taking chances and, where that line is of like, saying like, hey, some parents are like, no, you have to do this, which, I really respect too. But something you have to figure out for yourself as a parent, where that line is.
And I should qualify this by saying, if I set it up as like we're dropping these kids into an episode of Alone, we are not. There are 5 boys and 5 girls, and I think 2 or 3 counselors, and I did another river trip with these guys that was much sort of easier and whatever. And like so,
but still, taking the chance to go and do that is a big thing for.
But you're right. You're right. Both of you are right in that. I might get a phone call in 3 days that this kid's having a panic attack. I don't know. But it wasn't so much forcing them as it was like, I feel really strongly that this would be really good for you guys. What do you think?
Yep.
And leading them to kind of see if they could make these decisions, see how it felt. And, man, we'll just see. Robbie, you have a 16-year-old?
15-year-old. I'm looking right at her.
She's here.
She's here.
She's doing some behind the scenes photos.
Yeah. No, I wanted to chime in just in that. But it's so hard for me not to chime in. I've got to sit here and shut up, but I'm going to chime.
You don't, man. Just jab.
You always tell me that. I love the fact that you guys reconciled. My wife and I did the same thing. We had a separation.
Oh, really? Mm.
It was brutal. It was brutal on her. It was brutal on me. It was brutal on and we were to a point where, in the beginning, it's like, I'm done. We're done.
Yeah.
And we tell her we're getting a divorce, and everybody's just going their separate ways, and that's how our egos worked. And then some things happened. For you, I understand COVID brought you back together, and then over time it kind of evolved. Well, that's different but similar. And we reconciled, and we're all fucking happier. And we're so much better now, and so is she. And it's just a fascinating journey. And people always say, well, what was it? What happened and all that? And of course, a million things happened, but what really happened was that I grew and she grew. And then we came back together.
Because you were able to take time separately. Like the word separation is there for a reason we all become so intermeshed with each other, and you're living under the same roof, and like nobody gets the space to do that. And when you really make that decision, which is a challenging one, because it almost felt like, for me, it felt like that, like in my mind, I was like, oh, does that mean I failed at doing this? That I'm a failure in my marriage. And that's all I've dedicated the last 15 years of my life to Ben and my kids, and I've put my career on. I mean, it was, the ego comes in very quickly, and the fear around what it will be perceived as and what people will say and how the kids will be impacted. And instead of then and then when we made that decision, it was like we both got to work on ourselves separately. And by the way, the whole time we were also in couples therapy with each other, because we have these 2 children that we're going to be in each other's lives forever, no matter what. So learning communication skills, learning things about ourselves, That's right. I really appreciate you saying that, because we got so much, when people heard we had gotten back together, it was almost like this, like, I was getting emails and texts and calls, and I was like, and I think there were like crises going on in the world, as there always are, and I was like, why are people so excited about this? Like, and they, back to what we've been talking about, it was just, it was hopeful for people to hear that people go through challenges. And by the way, sometimes divorce is the best answer. And that's okay too, but you came to that on your own, right? And so I feel like for us, like, I finally just was like, I'm happy that we're making people happy, that they've,
That's really what it's about.
because I was shocked I was like, why am I getting all these like sort of congratulatory emails? It was a really tough few years.
Yeah.
But I think people, there was some hope in it. There was a sense of, that life takes different turns, and, to find your way back is worthy of,
Yeah, I mean, it's different it's definitely
Yeah.
different for everybody. So you can't say, like, for you two, it was meant to be that you had something there that, I agree. Like, we both, really weren't thinking when we separated. I don't think, like, we were thinking, oh, we'll come back together necessarily, but it really makes, I think every marriage, like, if you have a chance to take stock of it, if, after a number of years, the gift of being able to have that perspective really helped us, I think.
My parents had been married, and it's sort of perfect, happy couple, perfect upper middle class suburban life, and sheltered us from anything adverse, that had happened. Anything that happened with business, anything that happened with, I didn't know anything about it. The kids didn't know anything about it. To my parents, unbelievable credit. I mean, look, they were 21 and 22 when they had me. I think my mom, I think they had 3 kids by the age of 30 or 31. So they were kids. And so they were doing the best they could. But having been sheltered from all of that, when life became challenging, I was like, I don't know what this is. I've lived such a charmed golden boy life, I don't know how to deal with this at all. So, do you guys, your kids are at the age now where they could find somebody and it could be the thing. And do you have advice for them about getting married and stuff?
I can really relate to what you talked about with being, I came from a family sort of upper middle class, suburbia, and it just, nobody really talked about anything uncomfortable. I would hear my parents arguing about stuff, but it was never like, any sort of issue. A lot was swept under the rug, and it was there. My parents were 21 and 22 when they had me also, and so they were young too. And I feel like, but I had no skill set when I started entering into relationships of really knowing how to deal with the uncomfortable conversations. And I think through everything that we have gone through, it's really interesting when you talk about kids, because when we separated, Ben stepped up as a dad in a way that as a family unit, he didn't have to, because I was sort of, the cruise director. I was navigating schedules, and I was, hey, we're gonna go do this, or we would talk about a vacation or this. When we separated, it was really a moment for Ben to step in, and our kids were teenagers, or Quinn was younger, Ella was maybe 14 or 15, and you had to make plans with them, and you reached out to them, and you started to develop I think a very strong bond with Ella during that period of time. That, to be honest, when we got back together, I think there was almost like a fear that bond would go away, like that Ella was sort of like, oh, are we going to go back to the norm? Even though they were older, like she was already heading into college, and
because go ahead.
No, but I was going to say she had a high school, like she had a boyfriend during that period of time, and they ended up breaking up, and she had a very black and white, like before they broke, she was so in love with this guy, and it was just a very sort of like black and white view, I think, of us, of sort of like, well, you're not together. Well, you're either together or you're not, and there's no gray area, which we all know isn't true. It's very nuanced and it's complicated, and it really wasn't until she had her first love and her first experience with a breakup of still loving this person but knowing it wasn't right, it was young love and all of the heartbreak that comes along with it. But it was the first time that I really felt like she saw the gray area of, oh, it's not so black and white. It's not so cut and dry. So, I think as they grow but
it's also as kids, and you experienced your parents' energy and their relationship, consciously and subconsciously, you feel it all because you're living together. So, we all pick up that from our parents, no matter what. And I think, so like her experience was very much rooted in, the things that she felt as a kid, too, that were working and weren't working in our relationship that she could feel. So I feel like I understand how that could be confusing for her, too, because like a lot of people don't get back together. So I imagine also as a kid.
Most.
Right. So as a kid, she's talking to her friends probably about this experience and girding for divorce or girding for, this new reality. So she has to like protect herself and figure out how to navigate that. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, no, we're back together. That's not our perspective on it, but for her, it's like she has to adjust to that, which is really hard too. So your question was about advice. I don't think I have advice in terms of marriage or relationships because I feel like it's different for everybody. It's funny because I have been working on this movie about my folks, and it ended up being a movie that our whole family is in, talking about a lot of these issues, actually. And one of the things I saw my father talking about on a talk show in like 1974 with Barbara Walters and my mom was about how when you get married, you don't know where the marriage is going to go. You don't know who you're going to be in 10 years. You don't know how it's going to evolve. And so, you're sort of like signing on to one thing, but then, who are the people that you're going to grow into? You don't know. And you have to be willing to acknowledge that and look at the marriage differently, now than 25 years ago when we got married, because we're very, very different people in different places, and you have to just look at it for what it is now and be able to not go like, no, we got married and we were going to do this and we were going to have kids and back then I loved you so much and there were these fights that we like, all that is like doesn't matter because that was then, and then this is where we are now, and acknowledge it and go, okay, what do I want to be in this relationship? What are the things that are valuable to me in my life, that being a part of this family, and what do I want now? And I think that's really important to constantly sort of acknowledge where you are in the moment.
That's beautiful, man. I think now is all there is. I mean, in a without getting too spiritual, the older I get and the more I've learned from this healing journey, there's a fantastic quote by this MD PhD David Hawkins. If I can remember, I'll send it to you, Christine, for you guys to, it's like a little Instagram thing, but he's giving a lecture somewhere where he says, the mind wants these payoffs. The payoffs for the mind are either inventing regrets of the past or catastrophizing the future, right? And if you deny the mind those payoffs, then you're basically just in the now. And that requires like a discipline and a training of the mind, which when you're dealing with something, whether it be, I don't know what your experience was like with cancer, Ben, I'm sure it was cancer, so it sucked to a certain extent, hopefully not too bad, but ALS sucks. And to be able to train the mind to not catastrophize the future when there's so much incoherent, my soul, my spirit, my emotions, the vitality and passion in me, my heart is so hugely alive. And then the body is wonky and not functioning in a coherent way. And then you can just freak out. You can just get so scared. And to train myself to really be in the now, And I think learning how to be in the now, and ironically for me, I don't know about you guys, but as actors, like I was like, I'm supposed to be good at this because I get paid to be in the moment.
Right.
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 And I was really good at it in a scene with someone else's words. But in my own life, I was really bad at it. I was so focused on the future and trying to figure out how to provide more for my kids and be the best husband, the best father, and the best actor, and the best this and that. And I was not really great at just being in the now.
You guys, I just want to take a second to say thank you to you, the audience. This show doesn't happen without you. I am, from the bottom of my heart, I am deeply grateful to you because I started The Impossible Dream as a platform to help myself heal and to help other people heal. This podcast is all about that. And without you, that can't happen. We help each other heal. It really does take a village. So if you could just take a second to click and subscribe, like us, rate and review the show. Your comments really do help. Not only do they help us bring you other guests that you want to hear from, but they help us improve the show. They help us grow the show. Your engagement helps us expand what's possible for the reach of Impossible Dreams. So thank you, truly thank you. Thank you for being a part of the Impossible Dreams team.
Well, can I ask you what your practice is? Because I do feel like you talk about it being difficult and it is a discipline. And what, had you started that prior to your diagnosis, or was it really in the light of the diagnosis that you were able to make those connections? Because it really is a discipline.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I was actually going to ask you guys what your practice is too, if you have one. For me, I had started to get to be curious about spirituality probably 15 years ago, right before my oldest was born. And I was raised in conservative Judaism, but really just didn't really understand why we're all getting super dressed up in these, like, my mother would take us to get the best suits at Fleet's Menswear in Philadelphia. Like, I had to have the best suit, and we had to go to the thing and keep up with the Joneses kind of thing. And everybody was praying in a language and we didn't understand it. And I loved when the rabbi gave a lecture and I could finally connect what the Torah is saying to my life. But other than that, God was a man in the sky with a beard. And if I didn't repent on Yom Kippur, I was going to die. And I was like 9 years old thinking that that's what was going to happen. Like, I better repent or I will not get written in the book of life. And like, probably not the healthiest way to grow up, believing in God that way.
That's sort of been the theory of religion for the last, like,
Right.
that was 2,000, 3,000 years. Yeah.
Yep. So over the last couple of years, getting finally to the answer to your question, the practice has been years of reading books. I've read 100 books on healing in the nervous system, written as recently, by Deepak Chopra last year, or, Jesus 2,000 years ago, ancient stuff. Some of it, they don't even know who wrote it. It's so old. All of it says the same thing. It's all a different way of describing that we are souls having a physical experience, that, you have a power within you that you can tap into. As Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within. And I was like, Jesus? I'm like, I'm a Jew. I can't. There's nothing I can do to, like, don't give me Jesus, give me Moses, or give me something. But it's all the same. And you realize, like, we are in total surrender to, like, at the end of that David Hawkins quote, when he says, when you deny those payoffs of the mind, the ego goes crazy because it thinks it's not going to be able to survive. And he goes, I leave survival up to God. That's not up to me. And that's really what this is. It's like, if God's going to decide that ALS is the thing that takes Aaron Lazar, then that's not in my control. But the dream I have to, beat it, be walking again, and showing people what's possible is still the mission I'm on, and the dream that I live by every single day. And it just takes a lot of work, but that's, what choice do I have?
Amazing. And I think also it's such an important correlation you're talking about in terms of the idea that, like, Western medicine just doesn't seem to allow space for that. You say, the Western medicine doesn't seem to want to in any way accept that there's other factors that contribute to to wellness, and that's I think one of the biggest problems I feel when you get diagnosed with something, especially something like ALS, where this is what the reality is right now in our world in terms of like the few like you talking about these reversals and talking about what can happen. It's very easy for people in the medical industry to all say, yeah, well, that's just like that's, but those are real things that have happened, but for some reason that doesn't work into their sort of the framework of what it is to for Western medicine, because it's so based in supposedly in just this reality. But the fact is, you're talking about a greater nature of reality that we don't all understand and is very much real. What things we don't understand, and that I think is something that sort of gets pushed aside when you're dealing with something like this, because well, you're not dealing with what's actually going on. But the fact is, it's everything.
Well, we don't understand it. And before I get to this next point, which is going to talk to you about Mitty, which I think is a fun connection. I forgot to mention my parents as part of that support. I mean, my dad was my primary caregiver for 9 months, living with me. My mom came for 5 or 6 of those months. The family, I now have a caregiver who lives in, and then Sarah's here a couple days a week. But like that's what it takes. It takes that kind of, and all my friends and the community at large. But like, I think we co-create our lives as part of this thing that we don't understand. And so as hilarious as this might sound, if you look at Walter Mitty, the movie that you made, that character, the journey that you told, that's the hero's journey, right? And that's a guy who is co-creating his life. Most people do it unconsciously. He's living from the bank, but the checkbook, and that small, fear-based life. So brilliantly, awkwardly done by you, Ben. It was just amazing. And then he starts to change how he does things, and his life changes. And so as much as we don't understand it, that's exactly what's happened to me, right? And so we don't understand it maybe until we see it. And so when a brilliant guy like you makes a brilliant movie like that, people get it. Like, we feel it, you know what I mean? And we all go, oh, what is that? And so now I'm just kind of like interested in okay, well, maybe we decode it a little more. Maybe we become a little more conscious of what it is that we're not getting, because I think we do get it on some level. Everybody gets it.
For sure, yeah. On some level, you're right. It's like a subconscious thing that's there, and we're just trained by, the outside world to not pay attention to those things for whatever reasons, that our society has, created in terms of how people interact with each other and making money and jobs and economy and society, and all of it is sort of, this thing that we've created for ourselves over time, and it doesn't take into account these greater truths that are, that are unknowable too, to a certain extent. But when you leave space to connect with them, like through meditation or whatever it is you're talking about, in terms of just being open, even like, your kids going on a trip like that or something, like opening up your experience, that changes you. And then it allows for the openness for the next thing to happen that you don't know what that will be, but you have to open the door.
Prayer and meditation, all of those things are part of my practice, and I'm not good at it. And I keep realizing, like, you don't have to be. Like, there's no good way of doing it. If you're taking that time, a conscious moment in your day to stop, I've heard people say, like, prayer is sort of like the thoughts and the talking and the asking, but meditation is waiting for the answer, of sitting in the silence and letting because I'm so easily distracted. And in the meditation, which I really think I'm bad at, I'm really great at the prayer because I can ask for a lot of things. And the higher power and the world we're living in, and seeing beautiful sunsets, and because I grew up very Catholic conservative, and similar to Jewish conservative. I mean, it was there was a lot of fear around being punished for bad things that you do. So, and that's not what I believe today. And I do believe that that turning it over, that it can make such major shifts in you. And it just feels like you are living proof of that today with how you're living, the choices you've made, and being surrounded because really at the core of it, and you said it a little bit ago, is love. It's really what we as humans are here on this planet to do. Mayim talked about it, and she's talked about it with doctors, is like at the core, we're just here to love. Like we're here to, and that's not what our world looks like right now. But I mean, if one or two of us and we share it and you're sharing your experience and I have to believe, I want to believe, we all have kids, we all want this world to continue, and that I have to believe that if we are just simply making those choices, it will spread. So that's where I stand.
The pure love, pure joy thing, I mean, I think it just starts from within. You got to love yourself before you can get it. And I think in show business, that can be harder to do sometimes,
That's an understatement.
And so, it really is, I have to like fan out for a second, guys, and just, whether we end up putting any of this in the show or not, I don't know. I don't care. But there's just, as a director, Ben, you like, I've known you for 3 minutes. I'm so happy that my parents exposed me to the greatness that was your parents and their generation of comedy. And so anyway, I'm just,
oh my God,
tell you that.
That's incredible. How did they end up in your movie?
No, it wasn't mine. It was this student's. And I think they knew his parents, this kid, Evan Bucksbaum. Do you know the Bucksbaums? I have no idea. I don't.
I think I played it for you, but I haven't sent it to you because I have it in our text thread.
I was sitting at home, Ben. I was living in New Jersey at the time, and I was sitting at home, and I don't know. I think the house that I had moved into had a library because there was this book called City for Sale, and it's about the end of the Ed Koch administration.
Oh, okay.
And I started reading it, and like 20 pages in, I'm like, this would make for a hell of a mini series. And I'm like, I don't know how to produce shit. I don't know what to do with this. So long story short, I was like, well, it's kind of like very like about corruption, scandal, Koch being closeted gay at a time where, that was not a thing. And the city was burning, and Son of Sam. It was like a crazy time. And I was like, I think Nick Pileggi would be a great guy so I knew like one really famous guy in Hollywood at the time, my buddy Glenn Howerton. I don't know if you know Glenn.
Sure, yeah.
I was like, Glenn, I got this book. I'm going to option the rights. I have no idea how to produce this. Can you help me? He's like, oh shit, this thing's awesome. He's like, what do you want to do with it? And I'm like, well, can you get me a meeting with Nick Pileggi? And so Pileggi came on and was like, it turned out the book was written by these two Village Voice reporters, Jack Newfield and Wayne Barrett. And Pileggi was their marriage counselor. He was like, these guys were at each other's throats all the time. And I was their mediator and helped them get the book written. And Pileggi was sitting next to those guys in the stands when Giuliani was pointing out at Koch's like third inauguration when all these guys were going to be indicted or go to jail or commit suicide. Like, it's a wild story. Giuliani was just pointing him out going, I'm going to take you down. I'm going to take you down. I'm going to take you down. Like a young Rudy Giuliani. So anyway, I was like, Nick, who should write this? And he's like, Tom Fontana. And so Tom said he would do it. Right. And now we have this thing. And I'm like,
yeah, I'm excited to learn about it. Yeah. I love that.
All right, cool. That's amazing. It's just amazing to even share it with you because you'd be.
And Tom's friends with your parents too, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Tom said he was buzzing up.
Yeah, I think Tom produced. Maybe it was. I'm not sure what show my dad did. Maybe it was Tattingers or something. Bruce Paltrow. I think Tom Fontana might have produced that too, but he did Homicide, right?
Homicide.
Yeah.
Homicide, Oz.
Oz, I think,
Oz.
yeah.
Oh, your mom was
I think
on
my
Oz.
mom was on Oz
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe that's the
Cool.
connection. Yeah, but of course, that's great. Can't wait.
thank
See, you just get busier and busier.
No, I don't know. You know what? I'm grateful for all of it, man. I'm so grateful, and I will let you guys go after like 2 more minutes. I just want to talk
Okay.
about directing for a second.
Oh, sure.
Because it seems like my buddy Jeff Shecky was in Escape.
Oh,
at
yeah.
Dannemora or Escape.
He was great. Yeah.
Yeah, he was so fun, and I got to talk to him a little bit about what it was like to work with you. He just said you were so amazing. You know, there are directors out there who are like, they direct from fear, like they put their actors in a state of like, you better be terrified. You don't strike me as that kind. Do you have like
No,
a philosophy?
I was going to
of
say
how you-
yes. It's exactly what I direct from fear, my own fear.
You're
That's going to be bad. Honestly, that's where it all comes from. It's like, oh my God, this is going to be like, what am I doing here? How do I not make this bad? And depending on the subject matter, like with Escape at Dannemora, which was a prison drama, I hadn't ever done anything like that, and I wanted to get it right. So I was so afraid of getting it wrong that I just like reached out to as many people who would know the reality of those situations and kind of relied on them as much as possible. That was my sort of like method on that. So like, I'll get the technical advisor who is an actual criminal who spent time in that prison with these people. I'll get the corrections officers, and I'll try to just get the real information and try to just recreate that as much as possible.
Well, I mean, you did it I was blown away. I don't know how it took me until this year to discover that. I don't know how I missed it.
It's
when
sort
it
of like a
came
little,
out.
it's hidden in the Paramount Plus Showtime streaming app somewhere. Now, then we finally got it on Netflix. It's on Netflix now. So,
Got it. Yeah,
which I was very happy about.
Brilliant. I mean, everybody's brilliant in it, but then all those prisoners, Checky was saying those are real, those weren't extras. Those were.
Yeah, that was, again, just trying to get it right. The idea was that we had a prison cell block that we had to populate with prisoners. So I thought, let's just get all, ex-prisoners. So actors who had been prisoners.
And then when you zoom out and they're out in the yard or out in that, there's like some amazing shots.
Yeah,
where it
there's an
looks like
amazing
100
yard.
dudes.
Yeah. This is Clinton Correctional facility in Dannemora, New York, and we shot at the real prison, and that's a whole story about how we actually got into the real prison. But the governor had we got the governor to help us out, Governor Cuomo at the time. But then they wouldn't allow us to use real prisoners in the prison on the yard there. I wanted to have real prisoners, and they said, no, we can't do that. So they had to stay. They lost yard privileges for 2 days, and as a treat, they were given ice cream by the prison, which was
Right.
the trade-off. Which I don't know if that was a fair trade-off or not, but they were, basically we had to bring in. I brought in all the ex-prisoners who we hired as actors, and we brought them into the prison to play prisoners.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And there was just one shot, I'm rounding home here, rounded third, heading home here with the impossible dream, the impossible theme of it all. There was one shot which seemed totally impossible to me, which I was like, if I ever get to talk to Ben, I got to ask him how you did it. Paul was under in the guts of the thing, and there was one shot where it looked like you followed him without cutting through all those pipes. How the hell did you do that?
Well, it was a combination. It was basically 12 different shots that we stitched together and tried
You
to.
did? Okay.
That we stitched together. Yeah, we had to. I mean, honestly, this shot is like an escape. He basically leaves his cell one night and goes all the way down into the innards in the basement of the prison, and then through a pipe that they cut a hole in, and then comes out the other side and out a manhole cover. And this is how these guys escaped. And he did it. David Sweat, who was the prisoner that escaped, that Paul Dano was playing, he did that the night before they actually escaped. He did it as a test run. So that was the scene in the show, was like his sort of test run. And we wanted to make it, and I based it on an actual video that the corrections department, New York Corrections Department, made after the escape, where they traced they took a GoPro and they traced his whole route. And I thought, okay, let's try to do that. Let's do that in the show. And it was 12 different pieces that we shot over the course of. We had a lot of different locations. We had the real prison. We had sets. We had another prison in Pittsburgh that we shot in.
Oh my God.
And we had the real manhole cover that they came out of. So it was 12 different pieces that we shot over the course of 6 or 7 months of the shoot, because we'd be in a different location. We go, oh, we have to do that piece while we're at this location, or this piece when we're on the stage. And then we tried to find places to cut the scene together, the shot together, where you wouldn't think that you were, actually stitching it. So there's no kind of going behind a wall.
Yeah, I couldn't tell at all.
Right.
I was literally my mouth kept dropping wider and wider as I thought, I don't know how you didn't cut. So it was just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it was a
brilliant.
labor of love, but very, a lot of people came together, and Jessica Lee Gagne, who is our cinematographer, and our whole crew just figured that one out over the course of time. But these days every show has a oner in it now.
Oh, no,
Oners are like the new craze, right?
Oners.
The oners.
That are not really
Oners are
oners.
great. I mean,
Yeah.
Adolescence was amazing. I don't know if you saw that show. Incredible, I thought. And the studio has a bunch of oners, and I think the oner can be a really incredibly powerful thing when it's used in the right way, for sure. And I find the best ones are the ones you're not really thinking about until maybe deep into it, and you're going, wait a minute, has there been no, wait, yeah, that can really build. It can build tension for sure.
Well, I have to do one too.
Well, it was
real quick.
Oh, go.
This is a whole different thing, different level here, but I'm going to do it anyway because my buddy would be pissed if I didn't. But so there's this meme, whatever, going around that's like, if you're sitting in the back of a cop car with your best friend, or you're at a funeral, or you're in church, wherever, and you want to say, you whisper over, you try to make them laugh with one word. I sent this to my friend. This is my best friend since 6th grade. Our number one favorite movie is Cable Guy.
Oh.
His one word that he would whisper in my ear is center. Some people will get that.
Great.
Some people will not.
Yeah.
But the porno Pictionary
Right.
or whatever, and the word is nipple or something, and he goes, center.
Yeah, right.
Right, exactly. And he's so mad. He's
so pissed.
playing the game
The
so
famous,
mean.
the famous porno password set piece from Cable Guy.
That's right.
And wonder why it didn't do well at the box
No,
office.
it holds
when
up.
opened.
It came on recently. That scene I stopped and watched, and I was like, "Oh my god!" It's,
Oh my
Matthew
God.
Broderick especially is
It's unbelievable. He's so angry.
because they love Jim so
Well,
much.
he's having to do it with his
Everybody-
mother. He's having to play
Yes,
porno
yes,
password with his mother.
with his
That's
mother.
right. He goes, you know that little thing. He goes,
Well, you guys, I will say thank you again. You're just it's an honor. It's a treat to spend some time with you guys. You've been so successful, in so many ways, but being successful humans, right? And just being happy, healthy humans and being great parents and all that is my new definition of real success. So I thank you for giving us a little bit of insight and wisdom. A final question for each of you: any impossible dreams on the horizon that you guys are working on, or something that you want to do? Or are we?
Wow, that's a good question. What do you?
I mean, now I just want to go on the trip your son is going on.
Yeah,
I mean,
I want to go on that
should.
trip too.
I've never done
guys should.
anything like one of those trips ever
You want to do one?
in my life.
Should we do one?
I can tell you this.
Honey?
I have a lot of fear.
The place is called Deer Hill. They do a Sedona river trip with 5-star food. Like the food
Yes.
is from Whole Foods, and
you go.
instead of cooking out,
Comforts.
some freeze-dried astronaut food, you're making homemade brownies, and it's beautiful. And then end it at this spa in Sedona called Miamo, where you'll walk in covered in red dust. You won't have showered for 4 days, but people will look at you funny. But then and so it's the perfect
Yes.
you're
Balance.
in nature.
Yeah.
That kind of sounds right up
That
my
sounds
alley.
good.
Although that doesn't really
Yes.
sound like an impossible dream ending in a spa vacation, but I like the sort of
spa,
easing into it.
It allows you to be in the moment when you're on the trip.
Yeah.
But then
Yes.
your ego has the reward of the spa,
The spa
at the end, the payoff.
So we aren't in
You
fight
get
or
to have
flight
that.
the way
Yeah.
you were. We know that there's an end game.
That's right.
I need that, too.
I promise you, you will not want to leave that trip. That trip is beautiful. and it's
amazing.
fun. Deer
Yes.
Hill,
All
the
right.
place is Deer
All
Hill.
right,
Right.
that's
I can hook
it.
you up.
Okay.
Yeah. And you have to tell us how your son does.
Okay,
There
absolutely.
needs to be follow up because now we're invested.
I will.
But now you're on
I'm
recorded
saying it.
saying you're going to do it.
I'm
All right,
on.
good.
I'm on record here.
Good. That is an
Saying that.
impossible
We've got
dream.
proof.
That's an impossible dream that you never
That's
thought
right.
you'd hear. Aaron has inspired me.
Yeah, good. All right, I'm in.
All right. Thank you guys. So much love. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Great
You're the
talking
best,
to you. And
yeah.
thanks for everything you're doing, man. It's really wonderful to hear your perspective and what you're putting out there. It's really, really important. So thanks.
Thank you, man. I'm
Yeah.
just so appreciative I get the chance to and the opportunity to do it. And I thank you guys for being a special part of
And
it.
maybe also you could help me learn how to sing someday. But that's another.
Oh, dude, if you want to learn how to
That's
sing,
another
let's go.
podcast.
Well, we didn't even, I mean, listen, we might have to have you guys back whenever, because we didn't even get to talk about theater and Broadway.
I know.
Yes,
I mean,
I'd love to talk about
because
it.
I would really dork out.
Yeah.
I mean,
with you
Ben,
on
I
that.
don't know if you've ever considered writing a musical, but dude, the Broadway could use your genius.
Well,
So
I would
badly.
love to maybe someday direct something. Yeah, that would be great,
Okay.
and be a
Cool.
part of
Yeah.
something like that. But I'm such a fan of musical theater and, the incredible talent that you and your compatriots have. And it's just like another level.
It
that,
is, yeah.
It's just such a uniquely special thing that it can make you feel a certain way when you go to the theater that a play can't really do. It's like there's just something a musical does in terms of changing your frequency and how you feel about life and getting in touch with this other thing you're talking about, honestly, like in terms of the greater connection of everything, right? That you can't explain that, why you can feel that at a musical, and it's very easy to make fun of, like, oh, musical theater, we all make fun of ourselves, all of it, but it's the same way. I don't know, it's just an interesting connection because that feeling is almost, like there's nothing that you can compare to that.
I mean, I'll just end by saying that exact feeling, I went from being pre-med in college to going to grad school for musical theater and not really having any idea how I was going to make my first impossible dream of becoming an actor come true. But I did the musical, The Man of La Mancha. The funny story is that in dress rehearsal, I think it was either the day before or that day, there's nobody in the theater. There's like a janitor sweeping in the back. And I'm full costume, makeup, Don Quixote, and I sing The Impossible Dream, and nobody's clapping. Nobody's there. There's nothing. It's just silent. So I call the director down, who was the head of the program, and I'm like, I think we need to cut he's like, you want to cut The Impossible Dream? You're an idiot. No. And so I go on that night and it stops the show. I'm in a minute and a half standing ovation where I literally start crying on stage because I didn't know what that was. And at the end of that show, the character walks up this giant staircase out of the prison, and this sound effect of this huge metal door shuts behind me, and everything's black and silent off stage in the wings for like, 30 seconds or something as people are clapping. And I just have this feeling that this is what I'm meant to do with my life. And that feeling is what I chased in my personal life all the time. To have found the song again, The Impossible Dream, 23 years later, just randomly in a concert in New York, I had been diagnosed and I hadn't sung it in 23 years. I sang it again and I went, oh shit, I think this speaks to my life and I got to do something with this. And now here we are talking to you guys. So,
Wow. Yeah, there it is.
For everybody watching, like, make the impossible possible. It's possible. Right. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What a conversation. Thank you guys.
Great.